Before World War I, the world was in the midst of an economic disaster called the recession. But for Germany, the 1880s saw a significant recovery and became the land of big industries, agriculture, banks, and government. During this era, Georg Simmel also received his doctorate. Fast forward in time, he became a German philosopher who produced famous writings such as The Metropolis and Mental Life and The Philosophy of Money in 1903 and 1907 respectively. Simmel's ideas were very influential on the Marxist scholar George Lucas, and his writings are now being used by contemporary sociologists. Though there's much to talk about Georg Simmel, we'll be focusing more on his two famous writings instead, The Metropolis and Mental Life, as well as The Philosophy of Money. The Philosophy of Metropolis has mentioned the irony of depending on others to gain one's sense of individuality despite being in a liberal society. Such a phenomenon of psychological behavior and mindset seems to be unconditionally reserved for the metropolis. This results in creating different hierarchies and repulsions from being trapped in the social system. What's more, metropolis is made up of busyness of the economy, occupational, and social life, all compacted into a singular module. Therefore, life in metropolis appears to be monotonous, systematic, and homogeneous. All this creates a need to break off the clockwork of society and become individualistic with freedom of choices. Looking through the lenses of philosophy of money, Georg Simmel has pointed out how the people who were in high economical status in the past would live life under no control and boundaries except when held down by someone with higher standings. In modern society, people who live in the metropolis are given more opportunities than those who stay outside the city. Those people are looked down upon and deemed to have a lesser chance of success. This mindset may have been birthed due to the comparison of differences in advancement between the metropolis and small towns from the outskirts of the city. Greater technological advancements can only be found in the metropolis and are made to aid people's suitability. One such example are trams, a transport that helps to move commuters around freely and quickly in the metropolis. This mindset is also found impacting small towns where it powers the psychological resistance of individuals to break off repeated products. One example would be Mark Zuckerberg, born in a small town called White Plains in New York, who, as we all know now, is the co-founder of Facebook and the fourth richest person in the world. Another example is found through forms of art and architecture, where they break off a repeated mindset in the long run. Other than comparison between metropolis and small town, let's dive into a micro-analysis of metropolis society. People in the city have subconsciously developed their own identity based on materialism and in their doings. This is the blasé attitude. Georg Simmel mentioned how people started to prioritize themselves in order to surpass one another in return for acceptance in power and respect. This results in competitions between one another, hence creating pressure on one's status. The privileged mindset of city people is then exposed to more connection and resources, allowing them to gain more experiences. Therefore, city people are not easily galvanized and anxious by things happening around them. However, the blasé attitude does not necessarily have to be negative. It is found to be one of the key drivers of metropolis growth, where everyone is catching up to the trends of the era. The idea of smartphone gadgets, online marketing, and internet has become a universal product and are only possible when society upgrades itself to its trend through the blasé attitude. To end off, here are some questions to ponder about. How has Georg Simmel's philosophy helped to influence the world? What are some other instances where blasé attitude can be seen in our daily life? And lastly, to what extent does his philosophy apply into modern architecture? Thank you for watching.